Bruh.
Ah, Piggy. Perhaps the most nostalgic game in Roblox history. Piggy is known as the best horror game to ever grace the platform. Except for Margin. It was supposed to be a mix of Granny and Peppa Pig, but ended up being a story all on its own. Details in particular that I am really fond of is the map design. Every map is unique in its own way, it's not the same thing. There are some maps that I really like, and there are others that I would just try to avoid at all costs. Like, no matter what. I'm not naming any maps, but there is one map in particular that I don't really like, which I think the fandom can agree with me on. But in this video, I will be ranking every single Piggy chapters. No distorted memory, no winter holiday, no breakout, just classic Piggy chapters. And with that, let's waste no more time and get straight into the ranking. Let's do this. Starting off the list and coming in at last place is obviously going to have to be Book 1, Chapter 8, The Carnival. Now, this really is the only chapter in all of Piggy that I genuinely do not like at all. The cutscene is actually okay. It's where we meet Pony and Zizzy. But the reason that this chapter takes last place is because of the map. I absolutely hate this map, and as a result, it's coming in at dead last place. Now, coming in second to last place is the house map. Book 1, Chapter 1, the very first chapter in all of Piggy, the one that started it all. The reason for this map's extremely low placement is simple. This map gets extremely boring extremely fast. Yeah, this is the very first map in all of Piggy, so it is kind of special, but this map is just basically a Piggy version of the Granny house map. And so, for all of those reasons, house is coming in second to last, number 23. Now, coming in third to last place, we have Book 1, Chapter 5, The School. This map has similar flaws to House, the one I just discussed, but it's not as bad. It's alright. However, this map does get boring really quickly. Not as quickly as House, but it's a fun map at times, but overall, a bunch of the other maps just push this one way further down. The cutscene, on the other hand, is pretty good. It's where we meet Mr. P for the very first time. But overall, the school is just, it's definitely not the best map, but it's not the worst map either. It's a good map. So I'll place it here at number 22. Now, this next one might be a little controversial, but coming in at number 21, we have Book 1, Chapter 12, The Plant. The very ending to Book 1. When it comes to the story and cutscene part, it's pretty good. It's not bad, it's not great. It's pretty good at the very best. The map, on the other hand, is probably the most neutral map on this list. It's not completely awful like Carnival, and it's not amazing like the future maps I'm going to be talking about. It's okay. It's good. A little more good than School, but it's good. The Mr. P-bot is annoying. Even if you die to him in infection mode, you don't become an infected, you just die. But just to play it safe, I'll place it here at number 21. Now, coming up at number 20, and in my opinion, the worst Book 2 map, is going to have to be the Refinery. Book 2, Chapter 3. Now, when I say the worst Book 2 map, I'm not calling this map bad. I love the Refinery map. It's just the worst Book 2 map, which says a lot about the Book 2 in general. The cutscene is incredibly sad, one of the saddest moments in all of Piggy. It's when we lose Zizzy, one of the most important characters in the story. I actually love the Refinery map, the details put into it, and all of that. It's just amazing. The reason for this map's placement is it's the most buggy map in all of Piggy. At the very end of this map, there's a guard guarding Zizzy's room, and if you don't lure him away correctly, you can't win, even if you've already practically beat the map. It would be literally impossible. And for that unfortunate reason, Refinery's coming in at number 20. These 5 maps are the only maps that I've ever tried to avoid under any circumstances. All the other maps are actually pretty good, but I have to rank them, so let's get into them next. Starting off the good category, we have Book 1, Chapter 4, The Forest. Usually this is one of everyone's least favorite maps, but the reason I put it at the very bottom of the good section is simple. It is horrifying. It is one of, if not the scariest map in all of Piggy. And for those who disagree with me on that, think of it like this. Doggy couldn't even survive the night, so let that sink in. On top of it being so terrifying, Forest is also one of the most nostalgic maps ever, even though the cutscene is super short. Mr. P just talks to us from the radio, literally one line of dialogue, and that's it. Coming in at number 18 is Book 1, Chapter 6, The Hospital. I understand why a lot of people don't like this map. It gets boring super fast. But I actually think this map is pretty underrated. I mean, the cutscene is pretty boring. Mr. P betrays us and we make our way down into the metro. But other than that, the map is actually pretty good, but not good enough to get any higher on this list. However, I will say this, the hospital actually gave us the key cards, one of my favorite items in the game. But overall, hospital's coming in at number 18. Coming in at number 17 is The Metro, Book 1, Chapter 7, the very next chapter. Now, Metro is similar to the hospital in more ways than one, but it's not as bad. It has some quality content, like the cutscene is actually really sad, almost as sad as the refinery cutscene. I do love this map. It's super nostalgic, but it's not as good as any of the maps that we're going to be talking about. However, this map is better than Hospital because of the attention to details. This map represents what a train station is supposed to be like. And for that, the Metro's coming in at number 17 on my list. Coming up at number 16 is Book 1, Chapter 3, The Gallery. Easily the most underrated Book 1 map in all of Piggy. This was actually the very first map I have ever played, all the way back in 2020. For the most part, this map is actually pretty fair for both the survivor and for Piggy. However, there is one major flaw. If Piggy leaves a trap on the staircase, especially a black hole trap, it is literally impossible to win. You will get stunned and it makes it much more difficult. However, that doesn't apply to bot mode. The cutscene is actually amazing. People really underestimate this cutscene. It actually references what happens in the Alleys map. Damn. Speaking of Alleys, Book 2, Chapter 1, Alleys is actually next up on my list. The chapter that started Book 2, which is a pretty big deal considering how amazing Book 2 is. This chapter is where we meet Willow Wolf for the very first time. We also get to catch up with all of our favorite characters like Pony and Zizzy. On top of the story in Alleys being so amazing, the map itself is also equally as good. This is the first chapter in all of Piggy to introduce a puzzle, that being the code puzzle that you have to try to beat in order to get to Willow. Even though I think the heist version of Alleys is a little bit better, this map is still super good, and as a result, it's coming in at number 15 on my list. Now, this next one might be a bit of a weird pick, but coming in at number 14 is Book 1, Chapter 11, The Outpost. The cutscene is amazing. Mr. P gets turned into a robot, George leaves the safe place to face the man who's responsible for his family getting infected, and Pony and Zizzy confess their true feelings for each other before they face down an infected swarm of former soldiers. And even though the cutscene is amazing, it still pales in comparison to the map itself. The Outpost map, if I were to describe it in one word, it would be insane. Zizzy is constantly running around killing infected soldiers, and I just absolutely love the tank at the very end that shows up. I think Outpost is the first truly insane map on this list, so I'll put it here at number 14. Coming up at number 13 is Book 1, Chapter 10, The Mall. Now, I think people don't pay enough attention to this map as they should, because it's actually pretty well designed. Fun fact, out of every single chapter in Book 1 and Book 2, the mall actually has the most amount of items. I also really like the mouse in the vents to prevent camping, which hasn't stopped some players, but for the most part, it's done good. And the cutscene is amazing. It's where we meet Georgie Pig for the very first time. It's also the first time when we actually see the inside of the safe place. The bot, Robbie, is one of my favorite characters in the entire game. This story and map has a lot to offer, so I'm going to put the mall at number 13 on my list, right in the middle. Starting the second half of my list, we have Book 2, Chapter 2, The Store. The map isn't huge, it's fairly small, and I also really love the Easter egg that IKEA put in of Metro, seeing as how the store is literally right next to the Metro map, which was earlier on my list. Even though Alleys is the first Book 2 map, I think that the real action begins with Store. I mean, we find out what TSP is, Willow captures Zizzy, and it begins a whole new adventure. Basically, we should thank the Store map for expanding Piggy's horizon, so I'll put it here at number 12. Coming up at number 11, sitting right outside my top 10, is going to have to be Book 1, Chapter 9, The City. Now, I think we all know why City ranks this high on my list, simply because of the map. The story and cutscene is pretty good. We do get some backstory for Zizzy and Pony, and we do get a major cliffhanger with Georgie hiding behind trash cans. But the map is actually insane, even more insane than Outpost. I mean, this is the hardest chapter in all of Book 1, easily. This map has the second most amount of items in all of Piggy, second only to Mall, as I've stated before. There are also 2 bots this time, not just one, so I'm going to put City at number 11 on my list. All of these maps are good and fun to play, but now that we're getting into my top 10, we are getting into some extreme level maps. So let's get started. Starting out my top 10, we have Book 2, Chapter 6, The Factory. This map, where do I even begin? This map is actually the largest map in all of Piggy. This is the single biggest map in the entire game. Factory also has 3 endings: the Survivor ending, the Savior ending, and the Bad ending. The Savior ending is canon. On top of the map being so extraordinarily well designed, the cutscenes actually far surpass my expectations. Willow joins our team, we look for a cure, and it begins a whole new arc in Book 2. So, Factory's coming in at number 10, for all of those reasons. Coming up at number 9 is the very next chapter, Book 2, Chapter 7, The Port. I think people really don't pay enough attention to this map. It's not anyone's favorite, it's not anyone's least favorite. But, let me just shed some words of inspiration on this map really quick. The bot is terrifying. The lighthouse is a brilliant event. The sky is beautiful. The red and blue buildings that you have to go inside are extremely well designed. And on top of that, it actually looks like a port. So yeah, while the cutscene is okay, we do meet Captain Budgie and we do board her ship, the map itself is legendary tier and more people should play it. A lot more people. And for that, Port is coming in at number 9 on my list. Coming in at number 8 is Book 2, Chapter 8, The Ship. You're probably starting to see a little bit of a pattern here, but the ship cutscene is similar to the port cutscene. Not too much happens. We do have an emotional heart-to-heart with Willow though, but the reason for the ship reaching my top 10 is simply because of the map. It is the hardest map in all of Piggy. It is the single most difficult map in all of Piggy, in the entire game. Now, you could argue that Refinery is more difficult because if you don't complete it correctly, you cannot escape. But the ship is easily a much more difficult map, naturally, even more so than Refinery and Safe Place put together. Despite how hard it is, I really like this map, so I'm going to put it at number 8 on my list. Coming up at number 7, we have Book 2, Chapter 9, The Docks. Now, I feel like everyone's least favorite Book 2 map is either the docks, the safe place, or the alleys. But, however, this map has a ton to offer. This is where you unlock the crawling trap, the bot, Marcus, teleports. There's a temple part in this map that's really cool, and the burial part is super eerie and creepy. I love it. And also, when Pony gets knocked out by Marcus, I felt like that was one of the most shocking, one of the most craziest moments in all of Piggy. Overall, I feel like this is a perfect spot for Docs, coming in at number 7 on my list. Now, this one might come as a shock to some people, but coming in at number 6 is Book 1, Chapter 2, The Station. While the cutscene is super cool, we do meet Doggy, and we do have this awesome car that we drive in while we talk to him. But the prime of this chapter is easily the map itself. I feel like whenever the hype for Piggy is over, I always find myself returning to Station, especially in Book 1, considering it is the best Book 1 map. I don't really know why, but for some reason, this map is just super entertaining. Like, this map is leagues above leagues better than other maps that I've talked before, like Port. And that's saying something, considering that this is a Book 1 map. I feel like everyone's favorite Book 1 map is either Station, which is my favorite Book 1 map, or City, and maybe in some rare instances another map, but you decide for that. While the cutscene is pretty good at best, overall, Station is easily the best Book 1 map of all, and even with all that, it's not even part of my top 5, so let's get into that right now. Now, this might come as a huge surprise to some, but starting off my top 5, we have Book 2, Chapter 4, The Safe Place. The Safe Place is easily the single most underrated map in all of Piggy. A lot of people don't like it because it makes them claustrophobic, but that's part of the fun. It's a horror game after all. The map is super entertaining. I personally really like the elevators that Minitoon put in there. I thought it was a nice touch to the whole hotel vibe. I also love how this map was being foreshadowed ever since Book 1, Chapter 9, The City. I mean, that's pretty early in the story. I am absolutely clueless as to why this is some people's least favorite Book 2 map. The Safe Place is a masterpiece, at least, and at best, it is legendary and deserves so much more approval than it is already given. On top of the map being super boss, the cutscene is actually pretty epic too. Willow captures us, and we end up in jail in the factory, which is a big cliffhanger, if you ask me. A big cliffhanger. With all that being said, The Safe Place easily takes number 5 on my list. Coming up at number 4, we have the very next chapter, Book 2, Chapter 5, The Sewers. Do I really need to explain why The Sewers is this high up on my list? It is literally a fan favorite map. If it wasn't for the sewers, we wouldn't have these advanced bots that walk around instead of immediately chasing us. On top of that, the ambience, and the sounds, and the lighting, it's all so creepy, and I love the sewers for that. On top of being almost everybody's favorite map, the cutscene is also really epic. We end up fighting Willow after she shoots Giraffe with a gun. So yeah, there's no more to be said. Sewers easily triumphs the 4th spot on my list. All of these maps are amazing, but now we are getting into my top 3 favorite maps, my god tier maps. Let's start with number 3. Coming in at number 3, we have Book 2, Chapter 11, The Camp. This map has some qualities that no other map in all of Piggy has. For instance, with time, it actually grows darker until it's actually midnight. The bot, Delta, has an amazing theme song and an epic rocket launcher that will actually shoot at you, if you get killed by him, that is. The turret on top of one of the buildings is so epic. You can actually use it to blow up parts of the map. And that's a huge improvement from Outpost. With the tank and everything, Camp is much more insane than Outpost. Not just because of the reasons I've stated before, but the cutscenes. Let's talk about the cutscenes for a minute. Pony is revealed to be the one who killed Doggy in the forest. Willow ends up fighting Tigry, like actually throwing them hands. And at the very end, Penny is revealed to be in the lab. What more could you ask from a chapter so epic? Not just that, you can actually unlock a super scary skin called the Laura if you actually complete a teddy bear puzzle, which is super cool. So, Camp easily takes number 3 on the list for all of those reasons and more. Coming up at number 2, we have Book 2, Chapter 10, The Temple. I really care deeply for this map. It's terrifying. The puzzle itself is amazing. I love that spinning wheel at the exit door. Robbie actually comes back. And the bot, Spidella, is terrifying. Her design is so creepy. The way she moves, the way she walks. She's animated by PGHL Films. She is a monster, in a monster of a map, too. The reason that Temple takes second place on my list is not just because of the insanity of an amazing job that IKEA did on the map, but the cutscenes. The cutscenes potentially better than the camp cutscenes. We meet Tio. He explains how we're immune to the infection. He also explains how he's the one who made us hallucinate at both the school and the plant. But overall, the map and the cutscene are both insane, and they far surpass almost every single chapter. And as a result, it's coming in at number 2. Now, some of you may have guessed what my favorite chapter is. Some of you might have not, but you're about to find out. Coming in at the very top of my list, we have Book 2, Chapter 12, The Lab. The Lab is easily my favorite chapter in all of Piggy. The map is legendary. I love the vent puzzle you have to go through to use the wrench on the vent. I love how Distorted Penny, the bot for Lab, teleports, just like Marcus from Docs. And I love the lever puzzle. And I love the very end of Lab, where you have to go through a whole bunch of other maps just to beat the one you're already in. While all of that is impressive enough to push it up to my top 3, I think we all know why this is my number 1. It is because of the map, for a first start, and it is because of the hidden ending that you have to go through. The final boss in all of Piggy, Tio, you have to face him down and get the cure, once and for all. The map is my favorite map in the entire game. The cutscenes are the best in all of Piggy. And because of everything I just said, The Lab is coming in at number 1. And that was my top 3. The 3 best maps in all of Piggy. The camp, the temple, and the lab. But what did you guys think? Should I have moved any maps? Should I have placed any maps higher? Should I have maybe lowered any of my maps? Let me know in the comments what your favorite map is, and what you would rank all of the maps as. This video did take me a considerable amount of time as well as energy, so any form of support would be greatly and deeply appreciated. Overall, I know I did rank all of these maps, and I do love some more than others, but maps like Safe Place or Temple or Docks, I love all of these maps. They're an amazing and vital part of my growth, and I couldn't have got here without all of these maps. Except for Carnival. I hate that map.